1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Checking 1, 2.
No. But I had it at school. So that worked.
like to call this meeting to order. Good evening. First, I'd like a vote to go into closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, A9. All in favor? Aye. everyone. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Can I please have a vote to seal the minutes of executive session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can I have a vote, no votes were taken actually in executive session. The next item is approval of warrants from August 25th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements and personnel as presented. Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. Tonight I have 2 retirements to put before you. I have Kathy Clarkin, a special educator at Hoxie Elementary School, who has been with us for 34 years. And Mary Ellen Swift, the senior clerk at the Career Center, who's been with us for 36 years. So I'd like to thank them both for their service and wish them well. I do need a vote for this.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your service.
I also have a few resignations. Karen Hildebrandt, a school nurse teacher at Scott Elementary. Peter Fuller, an elementary teacher at Norwood Elementary. And Kristen Dwyer, an English teacher at Windman Middle School. Again, I would like to thank them all for their service and wish them well in their new careers. And I would need a vote for this as well.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you to all of them too.
And finally, I have some courtesy announcements for some appointments that were made by the superintendent this month. We have Kimberly Matera, an EL teacher at Oakland Beach. Laura Ferrick, a 50% music teacher at Norwood, Sherman, and Lippet. Jamie Ellison, a Category 1 job share of 50% at Scott Elementary. Daniel Caramonte, an 80% music teacher at Windman Middle School. Melanie Brunel, a 40% job share art teacher at Greenwood Elementary. Ashley Potter, an art teacher 50% at Norwood Park. Paul Grimes, a weekend custodian at Windman. Andrew Wilson, a weekend custodian at Veterans. Ryan Broder, a weekend custodian at Tollgate. Calvin Jenkins, a weekend custodian at Pilgrim. And finally, one administrator, Joseph Napolillo, the coordinator of operational systems in administration. Welcome all to Warwick.
And Joe is here tonight. Yes. Congratulations, Joe.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I also introduce our new special ed director? He wasn't here last time we
Yes,
met.
absolutely.
Okay, this is Gary Capolino, and we welcome him to the district.
Welcome, Gary. And Joe, congratulations. We're very excited, all of us are. And welcome, Gary. Our door's open to both of you as usual. Okay. So now we move on to the adoption of policies, the GBE Staff Health and Safety, second reading, Dr. Cecil.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, school committee members, Superintendent Danbrook. We are bringing back policy GBE for a second read with a few modifications. We added some language that was recommended by Attorney Hennius about that concerned sports, and I'll read that into the record for you. It says, during sports and related activities, all athletes must follow the athletic guidance from the superintendent or designee, which is informed by the Rhode Island Principals Committee on Athletics, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, and the CDC based on the requirement of their individual sport. Otherwise, masks/face coverings are not required for outdoor activities. In addition, we also added a sentence that says the district shall also adhere to RIDE and RIDO published reopening mitigation strategies such as indoor spacing, grouping, etc., as the same may change from time to time. And I believe all the rest of the language is intact from the last read, so requesting approval for adoption.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, Dr. Cecil.
I'll have that out tomorrow.
Thank you. On to new business, discussion update, opening of school survey results. Ms. D'Ambrook and Mr. McCaffrey and Mr. Taylor.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. We decided to do a survey to parents, students, and teachers to help inform us writing our new plan. So we wanted to know what was working, what didn't work, how can we improve, what practices should we keep on going with because they were successful. So we had approximately 2,500 respondents to our survey. And one of the questions was, what was the most useful mode of communication for you last year? And 73% said the emails was the best way to communicate with families and teachers. How well did your school communicate around COVID safety concerns? And 90.3, concerns and protocols, 90.3 responded well or very well. And we also asked, how safe did you feel going to school as a teacher or student and sending your child to school? And 76% said they felt safe or very safe. So I'm very pleased at those results. And Mr. McCaffrey, Assistant Superintendent McCaffrey, will be sharing some more results.
Looking back on last school year, what were some things that were positive for you? Being in school with others, in-person learning was 61%. Increased outdoor time during the school day, 35%. Increased my ability to use technology, 31%. Now, the respondents were able to answer more than one category, so that's why our percentages won't be adding up to 100%. Looking back on last year, school year, what were some things that were challenging for you? Reduced interaction with others due to COVID, 62%. Learning via Google Meets or Zoom, 45%. Navigating or creating online assignments, 39%. What are your hopes for this school year? Increase student-teacher interactions with other classes, 63%. Having less classroom closures due to COVID, 61%. Limiting online learning time, 53%. What are you most concerned about this year as we reopen schools? Health concerns, 38%. Academic concerns, 28%. Social and emotional concerns, 27%. And those are the results of our survey that went out to approximately 2,500 respondents that we've had to date. And of those, 93% were parents, 6% faculty and staff, 1% students. And that's the makeup of the respondents to date.
Thank you very much, Ms. D'Ambrook and Mr. McCaffrey. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do, thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCaffrey and Ms. D'Ambrook. I think if you look at the responses to the one, looking back on last year, what some things were positives, and the following two questions, I think they're all interrelated, right? In-person learning was almost 61% of respondents. I think the challenging things, reduced interaction. It's the flip side of the previous question. So, and I'm encouraged by the last question with the percentage for health concerns at 38.4. To be frank, I thought it would be higher than that. So I think that's a vote of confidence in the protocols that you've developed, that we had used and we're going to develop. So I'm just encouraged by that. So thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Ms. Bacchus.
Whomever can answer this, will we be continuing with the same protocols, or will they be different as far as closing down classrooms and things like that?
And a little bit, we'll be going over some of the protocols for this school year. And as Superintendent D'Ambrook has said in the past, our plans will be fluid, will change accordingly as the nature of our health concerns change throughout the school year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Personally, I think it was a decent survey to go out, and it seems like I wasn't surprised on this. I think people are very eager to be in classrooms, but in a safe manner. And I know that we'll get the plan tonight, and I'm sure that we will be sticking with a plan similar to how we tried to handle it last year. So I want to thank everyone involved on doing the survey. I think it was useful. Thank you. Okay, discussion, presentation, opening of schools for 2021 and 22. We have Ms. Danberg, Ms. McCaffrey, and Ms. Machado. I think we need to go sit in the audience.
Chairwoman, can we put that on for last so that it's not as disruptive and just go through the rest of them? Is that a problem?
That,
Thank you.
Ms. Danberg, is that fine with you?
That is fine with me, Madam Chair.
Okay. Just kill the screen so we don't go blind, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go back to number 2 at the end. So number 3 is discussion action, coordinator of operational systems contract, Mr. Ruggieri, Mr. Taylor. Didn't we already kind of cover this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're just looking for favorable action for the contract as presented in executive session.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Congratulations. And the next one is discussion action, request for additional positions 2021, 2022 SY, Mr. Ruggieri, Mr. McCaffrey, and Dr. Cecil.
Good evening again. As we do every time of the school year, we reassess the student enrollment, the teacher needs of the schools, deal with Ms. Cousineau or Mr. McCaffrey about what they need. So we have identified some areas, as we do every year, of places where we need to return some teachers. So first, I'll go through each one individually, and then you can vote on each particular one.
Okay.
So first, we have 3 FTEs for secondary special education, 2 at Tollgate and 1 at Pilgrim. Both administrators from the schools have worked with Mr. McCaffrey and Dr. Taylor with scheduling, and they've determined that this is what's needed for student need. And how this will be paid for will be reprioritizing other projects in the district to prioritize student need. So we're asking for 3 FTEs for secondary special educators.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Taylor isn't here, but I've spoken with him at great length about this next one. He's asking for 1 FTE for a computer technician. Obviously, now we'll be needing to replace Mr. Napolillo. Additionally, we've had, since all the Chromebooks have been delivered, we've had a temporary helper working. And now with all the Chromebooks and the Promethean boards that are in the district, the need is great to keep these serviced and up and running. So Dr. Taylor has identified that he does need 1 more FTE for that, and how that will be funded will be obviously reductions in overtime now that everything's distributed. The need will be during the school day. And finally, the elimination of the temporary helper position that we've been paying for several months. It will be, reallocated to this. So we're asking for 1 FTE for a computer technician.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right, thank you. Next, Dr. Cecil has worked her magic with grants, as she always does, and is requesting a .5 transitional advocate. This is a 1-year only position, and this is to service our homeless families during the crisis. This will have no additional cost to the district. So a .5 FTE for a transitional advocate, 1 year only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. Cecil again. 1.5 school nurse teachers, again, another grant. We've identified that we need, we're using a COVID coordinator again, which was very effective last year to have a medical professional there to answer questions for families and for teachers. But the additional FTEs are coming from a .5 nurse to be going around the district and doing COVID testing. That way we can do asymptomatic testing, testing for symptomatic staff and students, and then it'll free up our school nurses to be able to do their jobs in the schools. And the 1.0 FTE is to support the Tollgate Career Center Drum Rock Complex. In a typical year, there's one nurse that covers all of those schools, and with COVID, it's just impossible for her to be in 3 buildings at once many times. So we had used a substitute nurse in that position last year. In dire straits, if we don't have a coverage for another building, we have on occasion used that person as a substitute in another building, but primarily it's to support that. So that would be 1.5 FTEs for nurses, again, no cost to the district.
Move approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion. Discussion.
Yes, Ms. Bacchus.
Ms. Ruggieri, will the same coordinator be continuing?
Yes,
Excellent, thank you.
yes. Yeah, she's already been working with me, and we've been determining protocols and
Fantastic.
everything, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, now we can vote. If you wish.
Yes, I'm sorry. Dr. Cecil just reminded me that substitute position for her into a school building is also covered by this grant.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Seuss.
Thank you, Dr. Cecil. You are wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You're
Vote's been
welcome.
moved and seconded.
Yep, Jeff
All-
call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next is discussion action on contract award portable bathroom rentals. Mr. Ricks?
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. I come before you today seeking approval to get the porta potties at each of our athletic facilities. We do this each year. The money is budgeted for these items, and the total amount is a yearly amount. It's approximately half and half, half in the fall and half in the spring.
Move approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion, okay.
Mr. Ricks, have you ever looked into what the cost is, and should we perhaps purchase our own porta potties?
I have not looked into purchasing our own porta potties, no.
I don't know what it costs and how difficult it is to service them, but it may be something that would save us money in the long run, I don't know. Just an idea.
Yes, we can certainly look into that, Ms. Bacchus.
Thank you.
Have a motion to
That's it. Vote's been.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks.
Thank you very much.
And number 6 is discussion action, contract award restoration service at Sherman. Mr. Oliver.
Good evening. I'm requesting your approval on this contract. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Testa?
Thank you. Mr. Oliver, can you explain to us what this is for?
Last week, we identified mold growing in classrooms at Sherman Elementary School. We immediately rang in a restoration company to give us an estimate on the cost of the remediation and to get them in and get them started as soon as possible.
And it was pretty widespread?
Say that again, Mr.
So
Testa?
was it pretty widespread throughout the school?
Yes, it was.
And did we identify a cause?
It seems that during a fire code and a prior project that ventilation areas have been blocked off. And we're in the process, Mr. Gothberg and myself are working on trying to rectify those issues with our staff and possibly an outside contractor.
And for either one of you gentlemen, the company that blocked that, do we have recourse to them?
I don't think so.
From what Kevin, Mr. Albers told me, and Mr. Ricciuti, that this was done in-house years ago during some type of fire code or ventilation project without forethought.
Okay, so that fire code work was God, 8, 10 years ago, I think. Wow. All right, so, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Well, there was a major portion of fire code work that was done early 2000, I believe, that was done, some was done in-house and some was done with outside vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whatever happened, it took a while for it to reach this level.
Right, I think that the unique situation of this July, with it being so wet and the humidity being so high, it reared its ugly head, and unfortunately, we have to deal with it and rectify the
Okay.
problem.
So the important thing is we identified the problem, and we took quick
Correct.
measures to rectify. Okay, and then we should, obviously, I'm not going to tell you how to do your jobs, but want to make sure if there are similarly constructed buildings that we're making sure it didn't happen in others too.
Correct.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go back to number 2, the presentation on opening of schools in 2021-22.
Madam Chair and members of the school committee, we have completed our reopening plan for the Rhode Island Department of Ed, which is due Friday. We reviewed it today, and we wanted to share some highlights from that plan. The full plan will be on our website on Friday, so you could go through the whole plan, but these are some highlights from the plan. So health and safety, not much has changed since last year. So we're asking staff and students, obviously, to stay home if they have symptoms. Masks will be worn by everyone in schools. Of course, as you know, in our policy, if there's a student for some medical reason that cannot wear a mask, then we'll make exceptions for that. Students will remain in stable pods at the elementary level. This is one change. They say if you're in a stable pod, it's 0 to 3 feet distance apart between students. Students will be spaced according to RIDO and CDC guidelines. If more than one stable pod is in a large space, the pods will be 6 feet apart. An example of that would be like the lunchroom. So if 3 classes were eating lunch in the lunchroom, the tables would be spaced 6 feet apart. There will be an isolation room in each school for anyone showing symptoms. With parent permission, symptomatic and asymptomatic testing will take place in schools. The ELC grant that we just spoke about, that Dr. Cecil wrote, we were able to purchase the Binex Now test. So the nurses will test with parent permission any student in school or any staff member in school that is demonstrating symptoms. Our .5 nurse will be visiting different schools and taking random samples for asymptomatic testing. If a student or staff member is not vaccinated and identified as a close contact, they will quarantine for 7 days and have a PCR test 3 to 5 days into the quarantine period and returning to school on day 8. And that's different than our quarantine requirements from last year. They were a little bit longer. So we want our kids and our teachers in school, so we went with the least restrictive option. Vaccinated students and staff are not required to quarantine if they're a close contact and will be required to complete a PCR test 3 to 5 days after exposure. And hand sanitizers, as they were last year, will be available in classrooms, offices, and hallways. So Mrs. Ruggieri has asked teachers if they would like to, they could share their vaccination information so we know that they wouldn't have to quarantine if they came in close contact with another staff member or student who is positive. And also, we will be asking, the principals will ask for vaccinated students. It's their option if they want to share the information, but we will have a list together so we know which students are not required to quarantine if they are a close contact. And this also affects travel as well, if you're vaccinated.
Good evening, everybody. I have the instructional piece, and as you can see in the slide, it goes over some assessment pieces, some professional development that we're going to be giving this year, and so I'll talk a little bit about that now. Multiple assessments will be given this year, and it will give us a lot of information about the students, including our iReady diagnostic, which measures students' ability in math and reading all the way from K to 8. We're going to be using the STAR Renaissance diagnostic in grades 9 through 12, which is also reading and math. That's new this year. It's coming back to the district, which we're very lucky to have as another measure. Also new this year are the interim science assessments, which will help students do well on their NGSA test. That's the last acronym that you see there. That's the next generation science assessment. We also have the PSAT 10 for students to practice and get data on how they're going to do on the SAT, which is given in grades 11 and 12, and the Rhode Island State testing, which is RICAS. Formative assessments, which are ongoing, it happens, teachers just walking around, they can take observational data, anything, exit tickets that they collect from the students. It just lets them know how they're doing throughout the course of the school day. And that will be embedded into daily practice, as it always is, with the use of green materials. Green materials just means that they're high quality, and it means that they've been vetted through the Ed Reports process, and under RIDE's mandates, we have to only have the most high quality materials on hand. We've already gone through this process with our mathematics materials, and now we're going through the last component of our language arts with the elementary sector this year. And so we're looking through only the best materials that are rated the highest, and we'll be adopting new materials by the end of this school year, hopefully. Another thing that's exciting is our letters training, which was approved at the last school committee meeting. Thank you, everybody. And that is the science of reading and the structure of literacy, which is part of the Rhode Island Right to Read Act. This professional development will start this year. It's a 2-year training for teachers, and we have a lot of teachers, almost 200 starting this year, and then about 150 starting next year. So it's very exciting to really elevate everyone's ability to teach reading to our students. Our vision is the vision of a graduate. We're going to have that vision all the way from pre-K, up to grade 12, which aligns with Superintendent Danbrook's vision as well. The vision of a graduate is aligned with Michael Fullen's 6 C's, which are collaboration, communication, all these things that make a really well-rounded citizen, which is what we want for our graduates. And also, not having remediation in our classrooms whenever possible. What I mean by that, and there is a video embedded in the notes section of the slides, you can't see it right here, but it explains it. Acceleration just means that instead of actually having our students go back because they're missing some learning due to interrupted learning, we don't want to start, if they're starting in grade 3, we want to start on grade level in grade 3. We don't want to go backwards and say, okay, they're missing some of these skills, so let's start with the grade 2 material. If we do that, then the students won't ever catch up to where they need to be in grade 3. So research shows us that remediation is not the way to go when there is some gaps in learning, which we have with our interrupted learning. That's happened due to COVID. And so what we do is we start on grade level and then move forward and then fill in the gaps as necessary to make sure that the students are learning what they need to. And To go along with that, leaders have been encouraged to be very positive this year and be very visible in the schools. I want to see a lot of people in classrooms and just being supportive of all the great things that we have going on in Warwick, because we have a lot of great things going on. We also have an after-school enrichment program that will be starting this year at the elementary level, where students, all students, will have the ability to stay after school and do things that increases their voice and something that they're excited about. That we might have, STEM academies for students, robotics club, karate, whatever it is. It's going to be rolling out at the start of this year, and teachers will have a lot of say as to what they want to look like after school. But this will reach about half of our student population, and everyone will be able to sign up for it. So more will be coming on that front. And also, as we always do, the curriculum revision cycles will continue, and we're going to be focusing on social studies this year. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so transportation this year, students must wear masks on the bus with the exception of students with special accommodations. We're trying something new this year. Bus passes will only be issued to off-capacity riders. So drivers, monitors, and aides, and principals, secretaries, and teachers will have lists of bus students so they can check the students on and off. This will help our drivers, monitors, and aides with tracing and allow our drivers, monitors, and aides to become familiar with the students on board. Students should arrive 5 minutes before the approximate time of pickup at a corner stop. Regular education transportation routes are posted on the Warwick Public Schools transportation page. Our special ed eligible riders have been contacted by the Transportation Department. Transportation Department contact information is also provided on the Warwick Public Schools transportation page. And we just ask our families to be patient with us and to expect delays the first few days of school opening. Okay, so moving on to the food service program. So one great thing that's happening this year is our, for all grade levels, our school meals are free to all students. For the elementary level, breakfast will be served in the classroom by Aramark staff. Lunch will be served in the cafeteria. Meals will be hot. Students purchasing just a milk will be charged the 60 cents. And menus will be available on the food service program page on the WPS site, which I think became live today. Our secondary schools, so of course, free breakfast and lunch to those students. Breakfast will be served in the cafeteria. Lunch will also be served in the cafeteria. Meals will be hot with multiple options available. And the a la carte will be available to students that have cash in hand or money on their Titan account, with the exception of Vets Middle School. And I'd also like to add, although we are free for all students, we encourage our families to continue applying for our meal application. This supports our district in our fruits and vegetable program, increasing educational funding, and provides federal funds to WPS for extra services for our students as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As far as the elementary school plan, as Superintendent Danbrook already stated, safety is our #1 concern, and a lot of these things are similar to last year with a few tweaks and changes due to COVID protocols this year. Arrival and dismissal procedures are slightly different. We're not going to have a staggered opening. Everyone will arrive and leave at the same time at each elementary school. Teachers will add daily assignments to the Google Classroom so that absent students can participate in what we call anytime learning. There will be, again, no staggered arrivals. Mask breaks will be incorporated within the school day, including no masks at outdoor recess. Again, trying to keep within some social distancing. Again, as Ms. Machado just alluded to, free breakfast and lunch will be offered to all of our students. Students will be able to remain in stable pods. Again, in an elementary school with 22 to 26 in a classroom, it's a little bit easier than a middle school or a high school. All of our itinerant classes, music, art, PE, library, and health, will be held in their own learning environments if at all possible. Last year, we had those on a cart, so to speak, where the respective teacher went to the main classroom to teach that. This year, it gives the kids a little bit of more of a quote-unquote normal school year where they walk down to the music room, where they walk to the library, and so on and so forth. Outdoor learning and eating if possible. A lot of schools have picnic tables. They have kids bring beach towels for outdoor learning and eating. Social distancing per DOH guidelines, of course. And again, a tweak this year, we'll put into place our special education students will be included in our inclusion classrooms with a distancing of 6 feet apart. Because they're not part of the stable pod and they come upstairs or downstairs to a classroom for morning meeting or an academic subject that they are involved in, they'll have to remain just a little bit further away from the stable pod. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the school committee, students at the secondary level and adults will be wearing masks indoors. We will have arrival and dismissal procedures to alleviate the high traffic areas where there might be crowding within buildings. Lockers will not be used at the secondary schools. Students will eat in the cafeteria at assigned tables. We'll also be accessing courtyards and auditoriums if necessary for appropriate distancing. Non-stable groups will be at middle and high school. Stable groups will be at the Career Center. We will follow RIDE and RIDO guidance on distancing. Specific individual school plans will be communicated to families by Friday evening. As you know, our buildings are all unique, and the specific plans will be going out to the parents this Friday. Thank you. Plans for athletics: outdoor sports, masks are optional. Indoor sports, masks are required for players and fans. Coaches and athletes will wear masks on buses. Seating charts will be maintained while they're on the bus. Athletic teams where there are maybe an outbreak will be managed by RIDE, Department of Health, and the Rhode Island Interscholastic League.
I'll sit in for Mr. Taylor tonight, Dr. Taylor. As far as technology, we are now a one-to-one district. We're very excited about that and thank everybody for their support with this very important initiative. So students are one-to-one within the whole district, K through 12. The Chromebooks will be available to our students at our preschool level at Warwick Early Learning Center. We've already been in communication with Julie Barton over there if students have a need for that. We are going to continue with the Google Enterprise software. This has helped us out a lot, especially as we navigated distance learning. So Google Enterprise was high on our priority list. And as far as the Promethean board project, I did bring that data with me tonight. I had quite a few questions. Installation continues throughout the start of the school year. I'm going to insert here. To date, we have 7 elementary schools completely finished: Hoxie, Lippett, Oakland Beach, Robertson, Scott, Sherman, and Warwick Neck. We have 2 underway, Park and Cedar Hill, and we have 4 on the Get To Next list, which would be Greenwood, Holloman, Wyman, and Norwood. So we are well on our way to Promethean boards in our elementary classrooms. And just a side note that on our professional development days, we have ongoing Promethean training for educators as well. So if we don't get to that on this professional development day, we will double back and make sure that everyone gets some sort of training. The remaining boards will be hung as soon as possible, and again, the PD is continuous, and then the Chromebooks will be upgraded at the Career and Tech Center as well.
Good evening. As you can see, we have projects at Robertson, Oakland Beach, Greenwood, Welk, veterans, and CTC, along with the issue at Sherman. Because of supply chain issues, manpower issues, the contractor has not been able to finish the ADA projects in time for buildings and grounds to do their cleaning, in time for those schools to open. So we have done our best, but we hope to have them done by Friday. At that point, we can move forward with the cleaning. This does cause us to delay the opening of schools at Robertson, Oakland Beach, Greenwood, Welk, Sherman, and Veterans by 3 days. The Career and Tech Center will open on time. We've been able to finish the classroom side. The elevator itself is being delivered later this week. But the install of that will take a couple more weeks, but will not interfere with classroom.
Due to the construction issues, we have delayed cleaning. As soon as the construction projects punch out, we will get into the buildings and get them back into shape in order to open in a timely manner. As soon as we complete buildings, we will be letting staff in to prepare for the opening of school. As soon as a building is released, your building administrator will notify you for the date and time you can come into the building.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to add that Mr. Oliver and Mrs. Higgins have been very accommodating. We'll keep schools open evenings, we'll open on weekends, so they'll be opening extra hours so these teachers in these buildings with unfinished projects have enough time to set up their classrooms. Those, except for CTC, the other schools will be starting on September 8th, which is only a 3-day delay due to the fact that we have Labor Day on Monday and Rosh Hashanah on Tuesday. So they're only missing 3 days of school, which would be added to the end of the year calendar. We can ask RIDE for an exemption, which we will. Whether it's granted or not, we'll have to wait and see. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll have a discussion now.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mr. Testa.
Thank you. This first couple of questions, I think, would go to Ms. Danbrook or Mr. McCaffrey. Last year, if I remember, we had people stationed at the door for looking for symptomatic people. Did we do that last year? Was that part of the protocol? Last year wasn't? Because I know it's not this year, but I thought that had changed. It's not this year. Okay, okay. As far as the quarantining, first let me say I'm pleased with what you put up. I think the least restrictive quarantine option from RIDE is the best one. And part of it said, if someone's symptomatic, they have to take a test. If a parent refuses their child to take a test, they just have to quarantine for the full amount of time, right? Thank you. Ms. Prentice, the acceleration versus remediation. Acceleration, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I look just like Lynn Prentice, but my name's Lisa Schultz.
I always
I'll take it as a compliment. It's okay, thank you.
I apologize, Dr. Schultz. Told you I wasn't good with names earlier, so anyway. The acceleration program, that's pretty much very common what a lot of districts are doing, right?
The acceleration versus remediation?
Right.
Yes, it's kind of this new idea, moving into this year 2 of COVID, and we're just encouraging teachers. It's all across the nation. It's in every publication now where they're saying the same thing, that research is showing that instead of remediating and going back to the previous school year and trying to, teach to everyone in this remedial way, the best way to move forward and reach all learners is to just start right on grade level and move forward. And then when students don't understand something, then you just start plugging in whatever standards they're missing. If they don't understand, you can pull them to the side. You can do small groups based on skills, whatever it is. But just we can't start that grade level behind, because then we'll never be able to catch up. They'll never be able to do the whole scope and sequence of what they need to learn for the whole school year.
Right. Because I did see where RIDE had put out statewide where most of the kids were,
It's not bad. We're actually very close.
It really
Yes.
wasn't, so we
Yes.
have our own data to go by as well,
Yes.
right? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we are 3% under the national average, in ELA, and 6% in math. And so we're actually doing better than a lot of the school districts. We have not had a lot of, they call it the COVID slide, or we thought it was going to be called the COVID slide, but really, we're looking at it now as just interrupted learning, because students still were learning. They're just a little bit behind where they should be right now based on national norms, but it's really not this huge drastic drop that we thought that we might see, which is really, really great. Especially Warwick, we did really, really well. Yes.
Madam Chair, may I also add that we budgeted money in our ESSER funds for after-school tutoring, which can support the students that need extra teaching for grade level skills that they didn't master last year.
Great, thank you.
And excuse me if I can interrupt as well. We also did a summer program for some of our more at-risk students as well. We had some teachers working with students through digital learning and assignments throughout the summer as well, I know.
Great, thank you very much. One other point, Ms. Machado, you did mention lunches are free, but we still encourage people to apply for free and reduced lunch. In addition to that, free and reduced lunch also impacts your state aid to education from the state, so I know it's free for everybody, but, you know, if you think you qualify, even if you're not sure, fill it out anyway. You can't hurt.
Yeah, and they're also available, hard copies are available in the school offices, but we have a really great program called Titan, where you can go and apply online, and it's very private, only 2 people have access to it, Bev and I, so we encourage everyone to apply if they can.
That's good, and if any of the communications we send or have available to parents, as long as, if I'm a parent, I'm on Titan filling that out, it's good to know that it's very, very private. So.
Yes, it's very private, very secure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, with respect to projects, Mr. Gothberg and Mr. Oliver, I do want to publicly thank you and acknowledge what you have been up against this entire summer with the projects, and these projects aren't elective things. These are ADA projects. These are roofs. We just came off the rainiest July in the last 3 to 5 years, which delayed roofs. And if a roofing crew comes down with COVID and the contractor can't find people, the work kind of stops. As far as supplying materials and shortages and everything else, that's a very real thing. So I would just hope that there's an appreciation among the public that these things exist, these things happen, and that's the cause of this. This isn't about someone deciding to lollygag for a project. So I just want to thank you for the scope of the work, the depth of the work, and I know you guys will rise to it, and this will, when we look back, just be a minor hiccup. So I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing and what you're up against. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Adams.
I've got 2 questions, Mr. McCaffrey, that you had brought up. One was assigned tables in the cafeteria for secondary. Like, how do you go about doing that?
Like we did last year, we had assigned tables for every student in the cafeteria that sit at the same table. You'd have to do it pretty much for each lunch, and with the rotation. So you have to just make sure you monitor your students where they're sitting, and make sure you have them in the appropriate seats. In the event there was a spread or anything of that nature, we could track the students down and trace who was sitting where at what time.
Okay.
We also have a check in the cafeterias at the high school. We have an excellent camera system that we can see who's sitting at what table when. So it's just another check that we have to make sure that everyone was sitting where they were supposed to be in the event there was a situation.
Right. Okay. And then the other question, you had mentioned utilizing courtyards. We had done that last year, right?
Yes, we utilized outside dining at Tollgate in the Schrader's Park, and then we also used the courtyard outside of the Pilgrim Cafeteria as well.
Okay. What about the, I don't know Tollgate as well, but I know Pilgrim has a couple courtyards that just haven't been used. Are those being utilized as well?
The courtyards at Pilgrim are being utilized for lunches. The outside dining areas in the park that was named after Mr. Schroeder's.
Okay.
Longtime principal of Tollgate.
Thank you.
I actually have I need a confirmation, so we're not using lockers in secondary, Mr. McCaffrey. Are they allowed to use backpacks then?
They'll have backpacks like they did last year.
Okay, wonderful, I just wanted to confirm that, I had people asking me. That's great. I want to thank everybody involved, Superintendent Danbrook, Mr. McCaffrey, everybody, I know everybody put their 2 cents into this. And I know it was a lot of work, and I know it's been stressful, and I'm sure at times we might even have to tweak what we're doing, and I hope everybody can be patient, because everything changes so quickly right now with this virus, and our regulations change, so I just want to thank everybody in advance, for doing such a great job to get our schools to open as normal as possible.
And Madam Chair, I just want to add that in our reopening plan, we do have a section that talks about revisiting the plan bi-monthly if needed, so, and presenting at school committee monthly if necessary. So we will be reevaluating these plans throughout the year.
Excellent, thank you. So, that would be the end of our meeting, but we have our monthly school committee meeting on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, and it will be here. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.